Hello, I'm Aaron Gemmel, and welcome to this installment of Nasty Sports Talk Season 7. This is the last guest ever to appear on the show. Guest number 50. We did it. 50 guests, 5 years. What an incredible run, and what a way to go out for 50 guests by having former two-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion and a Lions legend, Eddie Murray, joining the show. Opening credits, get those going. Big show ahead. Let's get started. You grew up in Nova Scotia in Canada. So tell me, how did you get into football in Canada, and take me through like your youth and your teen years up there?
Well, I was born in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I actually left there when I was 5 and moved to England. My father was English, but he was in the Canadian Navy for 25 years. So when he retired, he moved the family to England, Portsmouth. So I lived in England for 10 years, growing up playing soccer and rugby and cricket. Um, my father passed away when I was 14, and my mother, being Canadian, wanted to be closer to some of her relatives after my father passed away. So we moved back to Canada, to Victoria, British Columbia. So that's kind of where I grew up mostly, was in Victoria.
Okay. So you grew up in Canada. You obviously like you said, you played a ton of sports over in your time in England. And so how did you take up football? Did you pick it up in high school? Did you pick it up as
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I left England on my 15th birthday. Um, like I said, we moved to Victoria, British Columbia, and I spent 1 year in junior high and played soccer and rugby for the teams for the school and some outside teams and stuff. And um, when I moved into high school, some of the people that I was still playing with also played football, and they said, "Hey, you should try out and you know play football. Give it a shot." And I said, "Well, I never kind of really grew up with it. I kind of knew what football was." And then, of course, moving to Canada, I got to know it a little bit more. So I gave it a try. So basically, um, when I moved into high school, so it wasn't really until like 16 years old, I first started playing football.
wow. So obviously you had a fantastic high school careers, and that landed you at Tulane University. So
Yes.
what made you choose Tulane, and what other schools reached out to? Was there multiple Canada schools, US schools, a mixture of both?
Well, there wasn't a whole lot. No, that's for sure. So back then, I mean, this is 1975 now. 76 is when, so I was out of high school a year working. And I had attended this football camp in Vancouver. And that's how I got found by Tulane. There was an assistant coach at Tulane that was a Canadian, and found me through this camp. And so that was kind of like the biggest break of my life, really. I had really no other aspirations of going to school. My heart was in playing soccer. So I was trying to do what I could to further my soccer career by advancing to play for, some pretty good club teams in British Columbia. And tried to, at that time, the NASL was in existence in the early years. So, try to maybe play professional at that league, or see if maybe going back to England might be an option for me. These were all like, you know, wishes and that things might happen type of thing. I didn't really have any big plan about how all that might come to fruition. So when the opportunity came to um, go to university and being offered a full scholarship like I was, I decided, well, this might be a better route for me to see what I can do. I wasn't enamored with kind of just being a kicker because I played so many other different sports. But I thought, hey, if anything, I'll get my degree and see what happens for me after that.
Well, I think football is definitely a great choice because in 1980 you were drafted twice. You were drafted by the CFL in the third round, and then by the Lions in the seventh round of that year. Take me through both drafts. Like, what was you remember those days that you got those calls, and what made you ultimately want to say, you know what, I want to play for the NFL instead of my home country CFL?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. So when the CFL draft was going on, I was unaware of it. I didn't know that it was coming up. I didn't have like any feelings of when the draft was going on. I had not talked to any Canadians, any of the Canadian teams. No one come to evaluate me like the NFL teams were doing at that time. And I just didn't even have it on my radar, even though I was a Canadian. And I remembered when I got drafted by the Hamilton Tiger Cats, about 2 or 3 days after the draft, I get a call from my local newspaper in Victoria. The Victoria Times Colonist had called the Tulane Athletic Department asking for me to do an interview with them. And in the interview is when I found out that I was drafted. I forget who was interviewing me, said, "Hey, Ed, what do you think about, being drafted by the Hamilton Tiger Cats?" And I said, "You're the first one I've heard this from. When did this happen?" And so he gave me a backstory. Oh, well, the draft was like 2 or 3 days ago, and you were drafted and all that kind of stuff. So what do you think about it? And I said, well, I think I need to call the Hamilton Tiger Cats to find out what's going on. And it sounds funny to say that, but that's what I ended up doing. I called them to see if it was true, and got through to, I said, I remember the gal who answered the phone at their general number. I said, "Hey, I'm Ed Murray, Tulane University. I understand, I was drafted by the Tiger Cats in the draft just a few days ago." And the girl's going, "Well, hold on, let me look." And I could hear rustling of paper and all of this kind of stuff. So she must have been looking through some kind of maybe newspaper or something like that. She goes, "Oh yeah, here you are. Yeah, you're at Tulane University, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I just wanted to know if it was true. I didn't hear anything from the team." And she said, "Well, let me reach out to someone in the coaching staff." And so a secretary got on the phone and said, "Oh yeah, we've been meaning to give you a call. I'll have one of the assistant coaches call you." I still have not to this day gotten that call.
Really?
Yeah, so they never reached out to me afterwards. I think they kind of resigned themselves that I was, going to try to play in the NFL and see what would
Mm.
happen there. And especially, I mean, for myself, I had no even inklings as far as the NFL. I mean, back then, 1980s, like I didn't get invited to the combine. I didn't play in any of
Yeah.
the All-Star games. Um, I did work out for some teams and some scouts and stuff. No real feel if I was going to get drafted or if I would, maybe have an opportunity to be picked up as a signed as a free agent. No inclination, no nothing about what was going on or where I may get drafted. So it was a different game back then compared to now. I mean, now we
Oh,
have the NFL Network and the
ESPN
combines
and
televised, everything. They televise the broad jump to the bench press, the
the
40.
Burrow.
They do everything now. Where back then, I didn't even go to the combine.
Yeah, and even kickers today, like it's most kickers go to the combine today, and punters too, and it's very interesting to see how that landscape has transformed over the years. So you arrive in Detroit as a seventh round pick. The team was not in a good place. You would win the NFC scoring title, the 116 points that year. kicked 27 field goals, which was a franchise record. Did you expect to have such an impact on the team so quick in your career?
No, not really. I mean, the thing really, having the success that I had, I was really kind of dovetailing off of Billy Sims also being on the team. So as you had mentioned, I mean, they were not a good team. They were the worst team in the league the year before. That's why they had the first pick. They took Billy Sims as the first round
Yep.
pick at that time. So things changed an awful lot. They had a very good defense at that time. It was the early stages of the Silver Rush with Doug English and Bubba
Yep.
Baker and Purefoy and Wilcox and Woodcox, I should say. Bill Gay, all of that. That they,
Oh yeah.
linebackers were really good. So they had a phenomenal defense, but they didn't have the greatest of offenses. So when you now draft Billy Sims, he was just unbelievable. His rookie year was great. And so we were in more scoring positions than they were before. And with that, I got a lot more field goal opportunities and we were scoring a lot more touchdowns. We unfortunately fizzled as a team record wise at the end, didn't make the playoffs, but had a lot of opportunities with
Yeah.
Billy Sims being on the team.
And like you said, Billy Sims was drafted first round that year. With you putting up those numbers and Billy putting up those numbers and stuff like that, you both made the 1980 Pro Bowl,
Yep.
and you kicked 5 field goals in that game. You're named Pro Bowl MVP and the only rookie and kicker to ever do that to this day. So first, take me
No,
through
there's two rookies who have been MVPs. Marshall Falk, when he was a
Marshall.
rookie, he was the only other rookie ever to be MVP in the
Yeah,
Pro Bowl. Yeah.
yeah. So you're the only rookie kicker to ever do it, to ever do that. So first, take me through the Pro Bowl week in Hawaii, and then the game and your reaction to winning Most Valuable Player.
Well, back then, Pro Bowl voting was purely just done by the players. So to go in, it meant that your peers felt you deserved to go. So I know being a rookie and being acknowledged as being someone worthy to go to the Pro Bowl was a great honor to feel like my peers at that time, felt it enough to vote me in. And just the whole game and that whole week, being there, being around the superstars of the NFL at that time. And I always remembered I was starstruck. Walter Payton came over to me and congratulated me on being in the Pro Bowl, and I'm going, "Oh my God, Walter Payton knows me," And that's how. And it was just a very starstruck situation for me. I wasn't a person that was easily starstruck, but I know when that happened to me at the Pro Bowl, it just kind of, I know, solidified that I had a great start to my career, a great year, and to be voted in by your peers was a great honor.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine meeting Sweetness with Walter Payton. He seemed like a fantastic guy
It was.
and a
Yeah.
fantastic person. And for you to be in the same division as him for a long time, that's definitely, you guys definitely
Yeah.
probably got to know each other. So going into your second year in 81, team went 8-8. But what stands out is that for that season that you kicked the game-winning field goal against the Cowboys. But the way you did it was something no one had ever seen it. I haven't seen it to this day.
Mm-hmm.
It was not kicking formation. Take me through that. What was going through your mind? What was going on the sidelines? Because the entire team just looked confused until you came out and you drilled the game winner. And then, next thing I see is Billy Sims jumping right on top of you.
Yeah. Well, there is a little bit of a backstory to it. So going into training camp that year, the special teams coach we had, Joe Madden, he was there my rookie year also. He wanted to practice what it would be like if we had no timeouts. We're driving down, and what it would be to run out and bring the field goal team on the field and the offensive team get off the field, what amount of time that would take. So we would practice that. We would be in training camp and would go through kicking. Then there would go and they would call it, no timeout field goal was what it was called. All right, let's practice no timeout field goal. So the field goal team would be on the sidelines and the offense and defense would be on the field. They would run an offensive play. They would put the ball down on the hash mark. And then what it would take to get the field goal team on, whoever was going to be on the team, and the offensive players that weren't on the field goal team, get them off. And we were averaging like around 16 to 18 seconds doing this. But at the time, Eric Hipple was my holder because Eric was in my draft also in 1980 with Billy.
Yep.
And Eric had just become the starter because a few weeks previously, he made his big splash by starting on Monday night against the Chicago Bears and had that phenomenal 4-touchdown game and all of that. And so he was now the starter. But the other caveat to it is the rule at that time in 1981 to down the football, because it's different now, but at the time, because now you just take the snap and throw it right into the ground right in front of you. But at the time, you had to take a snap and throw the ball out of bounds. And when the ball crossed the sidelines, that's when the clock would stop. So that was the rule at that time if you wanted to clock the ball. So with that being said, we now all of a sudden it comes to the season, right? And so we would practice it like maybe, once every 2 or 3 weeks, we would do the no time field goal in practice. And I remember doing it, and I remember talking to Eric saying, why are we doing this thing? This thing is so stupid. We'll never have this situation ever playing football. Well, I had to eat those words. So here comes this game. The scenario is set. We have no timeouts. We're driving down to get into a field goal position because we were 2 points behind against the Cowboys. And Eric Hipple throws a seam pass to Ulysses Norris right down the middle of the field. And Ulysses goes over to put the ball down in the middle of the field. And Eric's running, so now the offensive line are running to get lined up. Eric's running behind them, and he's going clock, 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 clock. So everybody on the field is now trying to just find a spot to stand, and Eric's going to take the snap and throw it out of bounds. Well, on the sideline, Joe Madden, the special teams coach, he's yelling, field goal, field goal, field goal. Get on the field. So Tom Tenur, who was the snapper and a backup offensive lineman, he would take Amos Fowler's position, who was the starting center for the offense, to snap the ball. And there were a couple other people, but that's why when the play happened as quickly as it did, you can see guys lining up quickly, like Leonard Thompson is split out left to like the wideout. He's standing out there
stacked.
Yeah, he's a wide receiver. He's back over there. So he hears Eric, but Eric doesn't hear Joe Madden. I hear Joe Madden and Tom Tenor and a couple other people that are on the field goal team. So we're running out. And as we're running out, Tom Tenor is yelling at Eric Hipple, field goal, field goal, field goal. So as you can, if you remember the video that shows it, Eric's like yelling, and all of a sudden you see him like turning around everywhere. And he hears right, exactly. He's looking like, what's going on? And he knows, oh my God, I got to just line up. So he just goes to a spot for the field goal. Then you see me running in. I don't have time to take any steps because I'm bolting from the sidelines to get on the field. And through the hysteria of snapping and kicking, I knew I hit it really good. I hit it solid. And I look up and see it going through the uprights, and Eric slams me to the ground, and then everybody's jumping on me. And it didn't give the officials enough time to count how many people were on the field. And we got away with it because they didn't have replay back then.
So did you guys have 10 or 12? Did you have 10?
We had 12. There were actually, at the snap of the ball, there were 12 people on the field.
Oh, man. Yeah, because you had 3 receivers stacked to the left. You had Hipple, and then you had I think 6 guys on the offensive line in the protect. And you got that off.
I mean, the only guy, and he thought quickly because he saw what was going on was Tom Tenor telling Amos Fowler to get off the field. If we may not have gotten that off if Amos didn't do that. So he was the one guy that was running off the field because Tom Tenor had to snap the ball, and he knew that. So whatever was going to happen, that was the one thing that needed it to have happen for us to at least try to get the kickoff. And we got lucky and got away with it.
And the Silverdome was going absolutely nuts because
especially
I've never seen
at that time
like
the Cowboys. The Cowboys were one of the strong teams in the league, and to beat them was a big deal.
So going into the next year, it was a strike year. You guys went 4-5, made the playoffs against the Redskins. You guys came up short, and then 83, you went 9-7, made the playoffs. Team was going up and down in hills and stuff like that. Did you honestly think like, okay, like, all right, this is my home. This is where I'm staying through the good and the bad, or should I try and move on, try and get to a contender?
Well, unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot of movement because of the way the structure of the league was. It wasn't like it is now where if you didn't like where you were at, you could demand a trade. Back then, you were stuck with whatever team that drafted you.
Yeah.
There was very few trades back then. So it was a different game. It was set up different. It was the luck of the draft of wherever you ended up. So for me, it was, I just knew the structure of the league. The further you got in, the more you understood how, it was difficult going through that 82 strike, educated myself on, just how, everything was a one-sided. We had a contract, but it was it was a contract that if the owners wanted us, not if we wanted to play for them, it's whether they wanted us. That was kind of the premise of it. So wasn't a whole lot of movement, no draft. No trading was going on that much at that time. So yeah, it was just trying to build as much as you could through the draft. And then if you were fortunate enough, maybe pick up some guys when there were cuts during training camp that you could pick up. And that's how you built your team back then.
Because free agency wasn't a huge thing like it is now back then.
No.
It wasn't huge back then. It got bigger as you continued your career with the Lions. Yep. So before we, get into your 89 season, because I that one stands out to me, this is a segment I've done with all 49 guests so far. It's called Rapid Fire 7, Eddie. It's just 7 random questions off the top of your head. Just to get to know you better. Could be about football, could not be. So I want to know, who was the biggest prankster or jokester on all the Lions teams you ever played on?
We had a couple of them. When I first got there, Tom Squildaney and I, Tom was pretty good jokester, kept the locker room pretty light, as well as Jim Arnold, who punted with me in the latter part of my career. We were 2 hellions in the locker room to try to keep things on the light side.
All right. Most fun city to travel to during your time?
Wow. I mean, playing the game in the 80s was different than the latter part of my career. So in the early part of my career, we would travel and we would get into the city and we would have to get our own dinner. So we got per diem to go out to a restaurant to go get something to eat. And then we would have a meeting have to be back at the hotel at 10 for meetings and then curfew at 11. But we would arrive like at 5, 6 o'clock and we would have 4 or 5 hours to go get dinner or just stay in a hotel and eat in the hotel. So it was different back then compared to now. Now everything is, the team locks you down. You fly in, there's meetings right away. There's food. You have very little time with family and friends if they're on a road trip. You do not get a chance to go out at all. And curfew, you're locked down. So it's a different game now compared to when I first came in the league.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, there were so many great cities to play in. Tampa was always good because they were in our division at that time.
Yep.
That St. Petersburg, Tampa area is beautiful. A lot of great restaurants and stuff like that to go to answer your question.
Cool. I can see a little bit behind you, some of the records on the wall, but do Do you collect sports memorabilia?
Not really. I know the one thing I did when I started playing, and it started actually my years in college, was I asked to keep my helmet. So I have all of the helmets I played football with from college on. The only helmet I don't have was the one game I played for Kansas City. They wouldn't let me keep the hat, so I got to keep the baseball hat that I wore during the game. But apart from that, I have all of my helmets that I
Wow,
played with every team
that's
as my
awesome.
personal thing. And then the other thing was the Cowboys also gave, after the Super Bowl, they said, "Hey, you guys keep your uniform, keep your pants, keep your socks. That's your memorabilia from the Super Bowl." So I have my whole uniform that I wore that year and also in the Super Bowl.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm gonna get to your Cowboys Super Bowl in a few minutes. That's incredible. That's especially especially like the
Yeah,
Lions all the other years, the Redskins, the Eagles, the Vikings. That's awesome.
yep.
What was your favorite thing to do with your family in the summer?
Uh, Both my wife and I, when we dated, and we were big golfers. I'm a big golfer. So our thing as a family was golfing in our early years. And then since we have a daughter that's 24 now, but growing up, the big thing was just spending time. We live on Cass Lake, was boating. So we did a lot of pontooning, you know, tubing and all of that kind of stuff, and just spending
Cool,
time on.
cool. Uh, what's your favorite TV show or series of all time?
Um, Big Seinfeld. Really
Really?
liked those shows back then. Love a lot of the comedies that were going on. Friends, I think, was another one that was pretty
Yeah.
entertaining for a long time. Also, yeah,
Yes. That's probably one of my favorite sitcoms of all time.
yeah. Well, one of mine, I know my wife and I, even my daughter, we've gotten into Blacklist.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
The new one right now. So it was kind of funny, a little added story with Blacklist. So this summer, Mark Wahlberg had a golf tournament at the Detroit Golf Club for the Children's Miracle Network, and he had brought in a lot of his actor friends to come and participate in the golf outing, and they had a pairings party the night before at Wahlburgers. His restaurant, his hamburger restaurant
A great
in
comedy.
Royal Oak,
Oh,
and a
The
bunch
Royal
of
Oak
people.
one.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Royal Oak one. And so my wife and daughter and I, went to the pairings party to enjoy, getting out and just meeting some of the new people. And Lomas Brown was there with his wife, and both Lomas and I turned around and we looked around, and there's Dembe, who is
Oh, no
who,
kidding.
yeah, there's Dembe right there, and we like almost attacked him. Oh, we went over. He was the greatest guy, just very personable. Um, does not have a accent. He great story behind him. He was in the military for like 20 years,
Wow.
and he was a prison guard in Sing Sing before he became an actor. He's only been an actor just recently, so he lives in New York. Great guy, great personality. And again, one of those things you just would never think of, especially watching a show like we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and finally, for this rapid fire seven, did you have any pregame superstitions when you played?
Always put 3 sticks of gum in my mouth in pregame. So I'd go
Really?
out pregame warm up and doing all my pre warming up and kicking and with the snap and hold and all that stuff. And then I would dispose of the gum when the game started.
Interesting. Very interesting. So now, 1989, before you made your second Pro Bowl of your career, I have to mention another Lions legend, whose career was cut short. Can you, if you don't want to, I understand. So if you want, take me through what happened, what was going through your mind during your teammate Mike Utley's play, and what did his thumbs up mean to the team and the city? Like, did it light a spark under you guys to play as hard as you could for Mike that year?
Well, that was the 1991 season. As a matter of fact, it was the last year I was with Detroit, not the '88 year. We were ending up to finish the year at 12-4. So when Mike got hurt, I know it was the latter part of the season. We were going to make the playoffs. It was just, how good we were going to end the year and where we were going to end as um,
Meetings.
yeah, in the playoff seedings and stuff. Exactly. So when that happened to him, it was a great blow because Mike was just one of those beaming lights of a person. He always had a big smile on his face. He always thought positively. He always was one of those, oh, what a great day it is today. He just had a phenomenal outlook on life. He knew he was blessed doing what he was doing. And of all the people on the team to have had happen what Mike had happened to him, he was the one guy to get over it. And the thumbs up meant, hey, look, I might not be here, but I'm with you guys. You guys need to keep going on. And that's the rallying call that we had to finish the season the way Mike would want us to finish it. And, but we, unfortunately couldn't get to the Super Bowl. We got to the NFC Championship game that year, but it was it was a shot in the arm that Mike wanted to give us in a situation that he knew, because he knew something was wrong when he hit his head on the turf like he did, that something was really wrong, and he just didn't want us to worry. He wanted us to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and he obviously now, Mike Utley's been doing fantastic with the Mike Utley.
Oh yeah,
with the Mike Utley Foundation, and they've been doing
Yep.
fantastic work. So before I mentioned 91 against Dallas, so in 88-89, you tied the NFL record for the highest accuracy in a season, 95.24%. Do you think that record will be broken, especially with kickers like Tucker, Prater, all these guys that are just kicking absolutely like just these long bombs, and yet are so accurate from 40 and inside?
Well, it was the uniqueness to the record is the fact that I did it back-to-back years. So that, doing it like Gary Anderson went perfect one year, but he missed the kick in the playoffs that could have put Minnesota into the Super Bowl.
It's Atlanta.
So yeah, but as far as seasonal record, he broke my record because he was perfect during the season. But to do it back to back like I did, no one's done that before. And I don't know. I mean, these guys are amazing now. I mean, Tucker is just outstanding with what he does. Just Prater, when he was here, the same thing. It just seemed like it didn't make a difference what the distance was, what the condition, home, away, turf, grass, cold, warm, just didn't make a difference.
It doesn't matter.
These guys are just plowing the ball through, and it's just amazing to see just how good these guys have become.
And even Vinatieri for his long career,
absolutely
for what he did, and what Tucker did this season, of course, at Ford Field, 66 yards. It was unbelievable to watch that.
That was truly outstanding. To have that situation, to kick that kick and to do what he did was just amazing.
It was. And so in 91, the famous playoff year, we all know in Detroit, team went 12-4, excuse me. You guys hosted Dallas. Take me through the atmosphere in the Silverdome pregame.
Well, I tell you what, in all the years before and all the years after that playoff game, I've never played in a stadium that was that loud. I say it all the time when people ask me about that game. I remembered being on the sidelines, and Jim Arnold was on the team, of course, and he was my holder. And he and I turned to him to tell him something during the game, and he couldn't hear me. And he was standing right beside me. It was that loud on the field. That those fans were so into the game, and that game was so exciting to be a fan of. And to be a part of it on the sideline was just unbelievable. To be a part, like I said, before or after that game, I've never played in a game that was that exciting and loud to play.
And especially playing against a Cowboys team that had Emmitt Smith and it had Troy Aikman. This was a couple of years.
Yep.
You would eventually join that in the middle of that dynasty. But you got the upper hand on them early, and you beat them in the Silverdome. going to the
Yep.
NFC Championship against the Redskins. You would score before the half, kick a field goal before the half. Offense and defense were held in check by the Redskins. 44-10, is that final. And
Yep.
the Skins would win that Super Bowl as part of their stretch. So
Mhm.
if it weren't the Redskins being in your guys' path, the Lions' path, do you think the 91 team could have won the whole thing?
We definitely had all the right pieces in the right at the right time. We were healthy, which is always a big indicator for playoff teams. If you look at all of the teams that make the playoffs year in and year out, they'll end up being some of the healthiest of the teams that season. To try to keep that continuity, especially offensive linemen and stuff. If you're always
Yep.
piecemealing offensive line week in and week out, you always got different people in and guys playing left tackle one week and right tackle the next week and guard and center. If you're doing all that, it's very difficult to keep some continuity going. So the teams that always make it, they keep all those things in place, and we did that year. And that was a great team to be a part of. That defense was just outstanding. The defensive line was playing unbelievable with the linebackers with Spielman and
Barry
Tracy
played
Haywood
unbelievable.
and George Jameson and Gibson and the DBs were unbelievable. Safeties with William White and Benny Blades. Just unbelievable
Yes.
team.
Yeah, and Barry, obviously,
Sure.
everyone knows Barry played out of his mind, but the Redskins held him in check, and the Redskins had the big Diesel and John Riggins that in those years, and
Yes.
ran it all the way to the Super Bowl. So now in 1992, the Lions did unfortunately let you go in place for another guy that kicked almost as long as you did, Jason Hanson.
Kicked longer than I did for one team.
And
22 years.
And so then you would move on, like you said earlier, to the Kansas City Chiefs, and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wearing that awesome creamsicle type uniforms that
Yeah.
they made.
Yeah.
I am just hoping that they bring them back, because I would love to see Brady one more year wear that uniform. That would be awesome.
Well, just that helmet, the Buccaneer, like I said, I kept my helmet. So I've got that Buccaneer
the
white
swashbuckler.
helmet with the swashbuckler on the side.
Oh,
it's amazing
man.
helmet. Yeah.
So you would have one of the best seasons stat-wise in your career, kicking in a game when you eventually landed in Dallas. You against the Giants in New York in overtime, not only for the NFC East title, but for home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the NFC. Yep. Now, kickers, being the former one myself, now kickers always talk about having it coming down to them and making the moment about them. Were you one of them? Did you treat that high stakes kick like another everyday practice kick or normal kick, or did it add more pressure to you in that moment?
Well, I mean, you don't try to think of those things. I think, one of the things in football, whether high school, college, or pros, the one thing at practice you never practice at full speed is special teams. So you can do goal line, you can do 9 and 7, and they're going full out. When you go to work on kickoff or kickoff return, punt return, field goal block, you're never going full speed, ever. So you have to play the game in your mind. So I always equate it when I was younger and growing up and playing soccer and rugby and having all the sports and different things that I would do. It'd be like you would play the game in your mind. So it's like, all right, I'm practicing free throws. Well, why am I practicing them? Well, I would play in my head, well, this free throw is to win the NBA championship. Or I would get a wall and put a square down, and I'm going to be Nolan Ryan. So I need a strike. So I got to throw the ball and hit it. All those things that you do. Yeah. All those things you do as a adolescent going through your career. So I was always one who I played a lot of those things. I did stuff by myself. I threw footballs around, tried to hit trees. I threw baseballs around trying to hit, walls and did all those things. And so that was part of my nature, was to do all of that. So being a kicker, you don't get a lot of chance at full speed in practice or even in training camp. You got to pick it up really quick. And as you know, in the game, it's a lot different. There's a lot of people flopping around at your feet. If you get a little gun shy being in those pressure situations, because they're coming.
You want the
They're
ball.
coming. They want you to be disturbed by what's coming at you. So
Yep.
you have to learn really quick to try to block that out and just keep doing what you do in practice and work on with the snap and hold part of everything, and just rely on that being good, that you just do your job.
So you made that kick against the Giants. You guys clinched home field. You guys got by Favre's Packers, Young's 49ers to reach the Super Bowl against Jim Kelly's Bills. Now take me through that week leading up to the Super Bowl, like media day and preparation and for the Bills, and then take me through warm-ups and pregame of the Super Bowl, knowing this is it. This is the biggest stage in football, and I'm about to kick off in it.
Well, the uniqueness with that Super Bowl is they played the Super Bowl the following week, where now it's always 2 weeks. So when we beat San Francisco in Dallas for the NFC Championship game, Monday we were on a plane going to Atlanta, getting ready for the Super Bowl. So for me, not being in that situation before, playing in a Super Bowl, it was like a long road trip. So we were on the plane, we go in, we're using the Atlanta Falcons practice facility the whole week, and then we're getting ready for the game the following Sunday. I remember everything was all the same until I would go out for pregame. I would always like to go really early to a stadium, whether it's home or away, walk around, get used to the confines, especially if it was outdoors, just to kind of get a feel for the weather and winds and all of those kinds of things. But with the Georgia Dome, it was more, I just wanted to get out of the locker room, get some of the nervousness out of the way with, and just, absorb what was going on for the Super Bowl. So with that being said, I remember going out, and because it was the Super Bowl, that the stands were much more full. The sidelines had a lot more people on them, and everything all of a sudden seemed different. And I remembered having maybe my worst warm-up ever as a professional, was having difficult time making kicks and snap and hold. I just felt all out of sorts, and timing was all poor. And the thing that helped me was we got the kick. So what we received the opening kickoff, and Kevin Williams ran it like to the 45 of the Buffalo Bills, and we went like 3-4 plays real quick, didn't get a first down, and I kicked the field goal, and I got right into the game right away. And then all of a sudden, it just became another game. It didn't become the Super Bowl. It didn't become larger in life at that time that I had perceived prior to that, and ended up having a great game, 3 for 3 in field goals and extra points.
Yeah, that was the first one was your longest one of 41 yards. And so, like you said, you had 3 field goals in that game. So now take me through your mind as the clock's going down, and knowing that you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be a Super Bowl champion forever in football history.
Well, to be honest with you, it was, again, at that time I was 37 years old. It's my 14th year in the league. And for me, it was really turning around, looking up to my wife, family, and friends up into the stands, and just saying, can you believe it? We won the Super Bowl kind of thing. So it wasn't just me winning it. I mean, there was a lot of support and belief from family and friends for me to keep going, to be able to be in that situation. So to enjoy it with them was very special.
And then you could sign, as they always say, forever you can sign your name Super Bowl champion.
Yes.
Forever.
Yep.
Forever.
Exactly right.
So after the Cowboys, you were then a member of the Eagles, the Redskins, and the Vikings. Take me through those years, because those are kind of all staggered, like all in a row.
Well, after the Super Bowl year is when now the new system, the new salary cap era started, and so football changed. It became more of a money game, because you had to fit a team under a cap.
Structure.
So decisions were going to be made on money, not ability. So it's whoever you can fit under the cap. And decisions were made on money rather than ability. So that kick for hire kind of fell into place. So I became the Philadelphia Eagles' very first free agent signee. They came after me really quick. I signed like maybe 2 days into free agency, and was there with Rich Kotite and his staff. And then Rich got fired in the offseason. And Ray Rhodes came in as the head coach. He didn't know me and made the decision to bring in Gary Anderson, who kicked for him when he was at San Francisco the year previously. So a lot of decisions were all made all around knowing and money and all of this kind of stuff. So I kind of fell into that kick for hire situation. And like I said, I kind of lasted 5 years kind of doing that and just had enough of it.
And that's what the league is basically now. Unlike the Tuckers and the guys like that, that stuck with their teams for a while. Guys like Matt Gay and all these other guys have been bouncing around. Like Michael Badgley's on the Chargers. Now he's with the Colts. Dustin Hopkins with Washington. Now with the Chargers, just bouncing around everywhere.
Yep.
So now in June of '99, you signed a 1-year or 1-day contract to Tyler Lyon. But in December that year, a Cowboy signed you. What did it take for you to come out of retirement for that year after being away from the game for over a year?
Well, yeah. So I was out of the game for a year. Made the decision to, I was going to retire, so I wanted to do it as a Lion. So I signed the contract, the 1-day contract, and did it in their off-season kind of mini camp time of the year. Got asked by the radio team for the Detroit Lions to be a sideline reporter, which I agreed to do. And that's what I was doing. So I did pregame interviews, gave observations on the sidelines, injury updates, those types of things, interviewed the head coach after the games. And that's kind of what I was doing. And then early in the season, like I want to say maybe third or fourth game of the year, I got a call from Steve Hoffman, who was the kicking coach for the Cowboys. And he said, "Hey, Eddie, have you been kicking?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And he goes, "Well, we may make a change. Richie Cunningham was the kicker. He had some struggles in preseason, and he was having some struggles in the early part of the season." And he said, "Hey, I've been asked by Coach Chan Gailey to reach out and get some people on notice that we may make a change." And he said, "What do you think, Ed?" And I said, "Well, I'll have a conversation with my wife, Cindy," which I did. And she said, "What's the harm of it? So you get in shape, you go kick a little bit, no big deal." So I did. I just started kind of working out a little bit, get my leg in shape, and started kicking and kicking. And it seemed like every week I was getting an update from Steve saying, "Oh, well, he made a 50-yarder, but he missed a 38-yarder," kind of thing. And he just, every week he was kind of just hanging on to his job. And so then it was coming down near the end of the year. And I said, "Hey, Steve, are you guys going to do this or not?" And he goes, "Well, if we're going to pull the trigger, it's going to be after this one game." And he ended up not having a good game. And he said, "Ed, you're the only person we're bringing in. That's all they want to do. They know I know you. I believe that you've been working out and kicking. Come on in. We'll work you out. Just go through the steps." And so I did. I went, kicked. But the hardest thing I had to do was I had to call the Detroit Lions and ask them to unretire me. And the only stipulation that Chuck Schmidt wanted to know at the time was whether it was an NFC Central team that was wanting to bring me back. And I said, "No, it was the Cowboys." And it goes, "Okay, then that's good, because we're not going to see you. So go ahead." And so they unretired me so I could go and sign for the Lions. I mean, for the Cowboys, I should say.
And so then you would finish your career with the Washington Redskins in 2000. You were the oldest active player at the time in the league. What made you, after the 2000 season, what made you decide to finally walk away for good?
Well, it was, having a 4-year-old daughter at home, having a great career. The uncertainty each year of where I was going to land. Training as hard as I was training at that time, because I was 44 my last year. So I had, I made it a mission way earlier, like really about the 1990. I changed my workout habits, where I really became very diligent about my health and working out and kicking and all that. So to keep that up and to be competitive became became a challenge. And so I thought, I've had enough, and I just decided, that last year, that this was going to be it. I'll do the best I can for the Redskins in that year, and I was going to quit after.
Yeah. Well, considering that name does no longer exists anymore, I bet you having those helmets is definitely definitely a really good keepsake to have now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With the
So,
name change, especially.
and then the new name change coming potentially next year, then the year after.
Sure.
They don't know.
Who knows? Yeah,
Who knows?
exactly.
So you finished your 16th all time in points scored in the league. Your 250 games played in the league were the longest by any Canadian player
Yep.
until long snapper LP Ladouceur in 2020 snapped your streak. Looking
Yep.
back at all your achievements, from the highs to the lows, was your career in the NFL everything you wanted it to be?
Everything and more. I mean, especially, coming from where I came from, small town of Victoria, British Columbia, never really growing up playing football, having an opportunity to, go to a Division I college, graduate, and then to carve out 19 years in the NFL were way above the dreams that I had for myself. Yeah, I feel very fortunate, very blessed. Had a great support team, family, and friends around me to help me achieve all those things.
Well, you're a legend around here in Michigan. So after your full post football life, what have you been up to? Do you live in Michigan? Are you, like you said, you are a golfer? Do you work or supporting local charities? Are you involved in the game of football still, like coaching, teaching, kicking?
I do private lesson kicking if I get reached out to. It's nothing I advertise. I don't have a website. I don't have camps. I don't have any of those kinds of things. The past 10 years, I've actually been working in nonprofit. I work for Hope Network, which is based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. We're one of the larger nonprofits in Michigan. We deal with mental health. We service over 30,000 mental health patients in every county in Michigan. We have a lot of neural rehab facilities. So we do a lot of TBI work with car victims that have closed head injuries, as well as stroke victims. So we do a lot of work in the mental disabilities arena, whether it's from birth or from car accidents or stroke victims. We also have 5 early diagnosis autism centers around the state. Our newest one actually just opened up here in Livonia, Michigan, the old Ladywood High School facility beside Madonna University.
Okay.
They closed their doors. Their enrollment went down, and the school closed. So we ended up taking half the building, and we just had our grand opening just last month for our 5th early diagnosis center. So do a lot of autism services, as well as we have a very large reading program that we have. That's a tutor-based program where we're in every Flint Elementary School, and we're in about 8 of the 14 of the Detroit schools, and growing. Been with them 10 years, director of donor relations for Southeast Michigan. I have a golf outing locally at Oakland University to raise money for Hope Network, and just try to bring a lot of awareness of the many services that we provide people in Michigan through Hope Network.
That is unbelievable. That's unbelievable, Eddie. Just giving back. I know what Hope is. I know I've recognized the brand for a couple of years. They do incredible work. I've seen some of your golf outings too, and also we've also met a couple of times at Taste of Detroit and other Lions events as well.
Sure.
So it's awesome that you are giving back to the community that you were part of for so many years. A team that drafted you and brought you in, and again, so many highs and so many lows with the Lions. one last question. This is personal for me. So I kicked all throughout high school, and I am trying to. Well, obviously, the pandemic screwed a lot of things up in everyone's life. Um, what advice would you give to a guy like me trying to walk onto a team like Central Michigan?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just keep at it and find the opportunity to get an opportunity to either show film of you kicking of what you've been doing. That's the one thing I like about Michigan. I know when I work with the kids here, um, I always tell their parents, I said, look, I'm going to be brutally honest with you, when you come and ask me to evaluate your child. And but also I'll give them every piece of advice and open up any door that I think that they want to go to. In Michigan, there are some great football programs at every level of school. Div 1, we all know, Michigan State. The MAC schools are all great. Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan. You got NAIA with Grand Valley. Alma's a great program. Adrian's a great program. You have Hillsdale's a great program. You have so many great schools with great programs in their football program. But I always tell the parents, I say, look, make sure your child picks a school to go to school and get their degree. And if they're lucky that they get a chance to play the sport they want to play, and then great. But go to find a school that you can get your degree. And if you can, so then go, if your aspiration is to play for Michigan State, you have to be honest enough. Are you good enough to compete at that level? If not, you can still have a phenomenal college experience playing on a field at a lower level of a school, but get your degree and you'll always have that in your back pocket.
Absolutely. And that's what I've been doing since I've gotten to college in 2019, since I've gotten to Mount Pleasant. And just trying to walk on would be an absolute dream of mine. Just to say, you know what, in about 20 years, when I have my children, I could say, you know what, I did this. You shouldn't be afraid to try whatever you believe in.
Exactly.
And so with that, Eddie, I can't thank you enough for joining the show, being the final guest to ever appear on this show, because this show is wrapping up in about 2 weeks, and you're the 50th guest to ever appear. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And
thank you. I really appreciate it.
Just a Lions legend, just a brand for the brand, a brand legend, as Pat McAfee would say. Kicking balls for the brand. That's what he would always say on the Pat McAfee show. So thank you so much, Eddie. I wish you and your family nothing but the best, and nothing but the best for your work at Hope as well. Definitely, the link for Hope and all of Eddie's work will be in our description down below, so you can go check all of his work out. Eddie Murray, everybody, thank you so much again.
Thank you again for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you. Oh, what a way to end everything. What a way to end all the guest appearances that we've ever had on this show. A Super Bowl champion kicker, a Detroit Lions legend, and Eddie Murray. Between him and Jason Hanson, it took about 40 years. He's just not but great Lions kicking. And you throw in Matt Prater as well for a couple of years. Fantastic guy, fantastic charity. Make sure you go check out Hope. They do great. They do fantastic work. So make sure you go check that out. For all the people out there. So that will do it. This isn't the last show. Believe me, this isn't the last show. We have one more to go. That's going to be with everybody, me, Brian, Eric, Jacob, and Ben, as we recap the entire series and say so long. Not so long, say goodbye for good this time. I mean it. Goodbye for good this time. So hope you enjoyed the 50th guest in 5 years is Eddie Murray, Detroit two-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ, Lions legend, kicking legend in the NFL. So hope you enjoyed. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. This is the last one. This is big. So make sure you like, subscribe, share it, anything you need to. So until see you in the series finale, as always, keep it fresh.